Hello and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Dartscast. Alex Moss here, bringing you another episode in our Darts Legends series. This time we're joined by the three-time BDO World Champion, three-time World Masters Champion, Martin Adams. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the three-time BDO World Champion, three-time World Masters Champion, Martin Adams. Martin, thank you very much for the time. How are you doing?
You're very welcome, and I'm doing quite well at the moment.
Good to hear. Well, let's start where we're starting all these interviews in our Darts Legends series, right back to the beginning. How did you first get into darts?
My next door neighbour, when I was living in Milton Keynes, who came over to borrow a cup of sugar or something like that. I think it was a cup of sugar. They'd run out. I was playing some darts in the utility room. And he said, "Oh, you play darts, do you?" I went, "Well, just enjoy throwing darts. I've done since I was a teenager." "Oh, right." He said, "Well, I've just put me board up," because these were new houses. He said, "I've just put me board up in the spare room." He says, "Brings some tinnies over tonight." He said, "Well, warm it up." I said, "Yeah, okay." And I beat him up on his own dartboard. So, with that, he says, "I think you're signing on with a local team." So, and it all stemmed from there, yeah. It was my next door neighbour, a guy called Terry Keep. Got me into it, yeah.
What sort of age were you then, that meeting that got you into playing darts more?
Me, I was right about 24. Yeah. Late starter these days, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And so you get into the pub league, and I'm assuming Super League, County, that sort of thing follows from there?
Yeah, it did do, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you hear people, other players talking about we're just playing local league and that, and you hear other players talking about Super League and County. Well, me being a bit of a nosy guy, I go, "Well, what's all that about then? How'd you get into that?" And, you just get put in touch with the right people, and, it sort of stems from there, really. Yeah, providing you can play well enough, they'll keep you in the team. So, yeah, it's all worked out in that respect.
I suppose from that chance meeting, having that chance to play darts and then progressing through the leagues, through county, you're starting to play more tournaments sort of around that time?
Yeah, sort of, yeah. It was sort of like mid-80s where I started doing tournaments and things. And, yeah, I mean, it wasn't very good to start with, Best I could manage at the early days was second round. Mm-hmm. And it was a big moment when I won my first bit of money. And I think that was down at the old events we used to run at Seashore Holiday Village down in Great Yarmouth. And I think I earned a fiver or something like that, Yeah. But it was the first time I'd won money. That was a thing. That was the start of it, really. Well, I like this, people paying me. So you got your entry fee back plus a little bit more. So it was happy days, that was.
Definitely, you've gone on to win a little bit more since then. And early 90s, yeah. The World Masters, couple of quarterfinals, 1990, 1992. So you're starting to play in more of the bigger events, I suppose, before we come to that first appearance at Lakeside.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of them things, you're dipping your toe in the water. Every level you play at, you have to learn a bit. You have to learn and learn and learn. It doesn't always come natural to you. Some players are very, very lucky that it all comes natural to them. The performances, not worried about the crowds and who's watching and so forth, and being able just to not have nerves, really, when you play. But for others, it takes a lot of learning. And I was one of those that had to do a lot of learning as I went. And, it came good in the end. That was the main thing. But, you suffer a few defeats, and you just have to take them on the chin. It's a sport. It's a game of winners and losers, Every time we play a game of darts, there's one winner, one loser, every time without fail.
Yeah, and it's early 90s, really, you're starting to progress. As I mentioned there, the couple of World Masters quarterfinals and your first World Championship 1994. But I believe just before then, there was a big moment in your career being appointed the England captain for the first time. Yeah,
that's right, 93, February. That was in the, now I can't remember the pub name. Yes, I can. It was in a pub car park at I think it was called the Bell in Wisbech. Because I travelled up funny enough, to the BDO meeting with Peter Milton, who was Cambridgeshire County Chairman, and Vic Neve, who was the Secretary. And it wasn't until we got back to the pub, where they were dropping me off to pick my car up, that they told me I was invited to be England captain, which was, quite an honour. That was quite a drive home, that was. You're grinning from ear to ear and trying to drive at the same time. So it was, 93, that was. That takes me back, doesn't it? God, yeah. I followed on from Dennis Priestley, didn't I? Yeah, because Dennis is one of those England captains. Unfortunately, he never actually got to captain the team playing because of all the split and everything. So, it was a bit of a shame from Dennis's point of view, but it was an honour to follow on from Dennis.
Longest captain for England, I believe you held it for a long time, but What was it like being the England captain, putting on that England shirt and leading the team?
I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I had some great players playing alongside me, and it was a pleasure to encourage them, commiserate with them when they played bad, and basically say, "Come on, son, chin up. You can't play great darts every day of the week. It just don't work that way. Some days you're going to have a bad day. Today you've had a bad day. Don't worry about it. Put it behind you. Look forward, not backwards." And that was the approach I had. Just get behind the players and encourage them. Even when they lost.
Being appointed England captain, as you say there, early February 1993, that the following year you appear in your first World Championship at Lakeside. But I suppose getting that move to be England captain, did that spur you on a little bit to maybe push yourself further and get into Lakeside?
Oh yeah, of course it does. Yeah, I still consider myself fortunate to be invited in '94, because it was a bit the way when I was looking at the table, I was thinking, "Oh, blimey, will I? Won't I? Will I? Won't I?" I'm really not sure. And then I think, if I remember rightly, we were out in Vegas at the World Cup, and I think it was Sam Hawkins. Yeah, he was chairman of the BDO at the time. Can't remember what his position was within England at that time. He may well have been chair of England, I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, it was Sam that came in and told me that I've been invited to, or will be invited to, play in the World Pro.
And it was the first of 25 consecutive appearances in the BDO World Championship, another record for yourself. What are your memories of playing at the Lakeside for the first time?
Oh, playing at the first time, the only thing I really remember, I played per scale in my very first game, and the only thing I remember was my very first leg. 12 darts out on 121, single 20, triple 17, ball. And that's one of them things I will never ever forget. It sounds a bit daft, but you only really remember one leg, but I managed to, to get to the quarter final. But it's just that first round I remember playing per scale for the very first leg.
I believe a 3-0 win in that game as well. He was the 5th seed that year, and you make the quarterfinals on your debut. And looking at the rest of that year, following on from your debut at the World Championship, a lot of success coming your way. British Open title, British Pentathlon title, and with England as well, the Europe Cup team title. So things are starting to progress for you.
Yeah, from the point of view of England, 95, 96 was definitely our greatest years. There's no doubt about that. As a team, we managed to achieve something that no other England team had ever achieved before, and that was to take every gold possible at the World Cup in Switzerland, and we did the same again in the Europe Cup the following year. So, it was just the first time it had ever been done. Every gold possible was taken by England, which was absolutely fantastic. Men's and ladies as well, that was.
2 Zuiderdown Masters now, the Finder Darts Masters as it was in more recent years. 2 of those titles, 1996, 2000, and the British match play beating Steve Beaton, who one of the top players in the BDO at the time in the final of that. What are your memories really from the mid-90s picking up more titles?
Yeah, we was travelling, hell of a lot in Europe and that, and we had a great time. It was like a big family outing, and it was fantastic in the mid-90s, really was. Because of Raymond's successes, Raymond van Barneveld's successes, it opened up, an exhibition circuit in Holland. And, we were going out there 2 weeks at a time, and you were earning loads of money, and it was a fantastic thing. That's one of the things that I've seen over the years, is the effect that Raymond's win had on darts in Holland. It was quite outstanding. It went from a few hundred at the Dutch Open, the very first Dutch Open I attended, a few hundred players, 300-400. Look at it now, 3,500 in the men's alone. It's just phenomenal. And that's all down to Raymond's success. That one World Championship when he had just kick-started Holland as a darts nation. It's still going. We're seeing all these youngsters now coming through. Youngsters like Vessel Nyman, great young player. So it's still happening, and Raymond's had a massive effect.
Definitely has, and you had some great battles with Raymond at Lakeside, and of course, before we moved over to the PDC, but it was early 2000s really. We saw you start to appear in some of those events, and we spoke to Kevin Painter on our last episode, who also played in a few of those events while still being in the BDO. Obviously, it was open to you guys to play in the qualifiers, but 2000 World Match Play, what a brilliant run that was, getting to the semi-finals, beating Alan Warner, the second seed on the way, and losing out to Phil Taylor in the end. But talk to me about that sort of time playing BDO and I suppose a few of the PDC's bigger events as well.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the only reason I sort of played in the PDC events was because I qualified through the points, but the PDC's points sort of like tables, it included some of the events that we were playing in anyway. So it was purely by chance, I suppose, in many ways, that I was able to play in them. And it wasn't sort of like me going out of my way saying, I want to play in those particular events. It's just that I'd accumulated points and I was able to do so. As we know, there came a point where, the PDC went, no, well, we're not doing that anymore. We're changing our ranking system totally. So that stopped a lot of us playing over there, which is probably just the way things are and the way things were at the time, and that's it.
Yeah, you touched on there the PDC changing their ranking system. Obviously, you've got a taste then of what the PDC's bigger events are like. I know you were very loyal to the BDO, but did you ever consider at one point maybe making that switch to the PDC?
No. I've been asked this question, it must be 1,000 times. No. I mean, I was enjoying being England captain, and if I'd moved to the PDC, I would have had to have given all that up at the time, and that sort of thing wasn't for me. And I also had consideration for the people that within the BDO system that had helped me out, given me loads of advice and loads of help, and it didn't cost me a penny for all that. So I wasn't going to turn me back on them. So that's another reason that I stayed loyal to the BDO. That's
fair enough. And looking at your runs at Lakeside, we'll come on to that win that you had in 2007, the first one, but before then you'd come close on so many occasions, a few semi-finals, 2005 getting to the final. What was it like playing in that first of 5 World Championship finals against Raymond, but coming through 5-0 in the semi-finals against Simon Whitlock to get through to that final?
Yeah, it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed the matches, I must admit. They're always tough matches. There's nothing easy. I mean, your luck sometimes can be your opponent missing a double and giving you another opportunity to take a leg out, take a set out or whatever. So there are some elements of luck in there at times, but sometimes it's not of your own making. It's somebody else makes the luck for you. That sort of makes the games enjoyable because sometimes you're reciprocating and giving them the lucky moment. But they are fantastic times. And I mean, to play your first world final, didn't win it, but it was a very, very enjoyable to play in it, I must admit. And of course the manager was good.
2006, another big final for you, the World Masters, losing out to another Dutchman, a man who's done very well for himself since then, Michael van Gerwen. What's your memories of playing against him, and did you expect him to go on to achieve what he has done?
Well, the way he played, yes, we expected him to go on and achieve great things, but when he did make the move to the PDC, my understanding this is not direct from Michael, from other people that were talking about Michael and his performance, that it was on the way down, and they thought he was going to give up at one point. But something changed in his life and his outlook, and he got his game together, and well, we can see the results of that today. So fair play to him. But yes, he always was a great talent. I remember first time I ever met him was at an exhibition night. I was working with Raymond. I believe he played Raymond on that occasion, and I can't remember who won. But yeah, he was clearly had a good talent at such a young age. I think he was just had short trousers, I think. No, probably still in short trousers at that time.
Let's get back to you, start of 2007, a memorable moment I'm sure for you and the BDO World Championships, picking up that title at Lakeside. But going into the tournament, Michael was the top seed, the favourite, but yourself, you were the second favourite with the bookies. Going into that tournament, how were you feeling about your chances of potentially going all the way?
Same as I always felt. I'm here to win. I've got 3 darts in my hand, same as all the other players. What will be, will be. And Michael bailed out early, and I managed to stay in it and got through to the final, and I managed to win it. And my good old mate Phill Nixon, who sadly is not with us no more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and looking at the run to begin with, you set your stall out early. 3-0 win against Tony O'Shea, 100 average, 4-1 against Craig Stompey, 5-3 against Ted Hankey, and then semi-final, an absolute thriller, 5-2 up against Mervyn King. He comes back to 5-all, but you sweep the final set to get through. So I suppose it was a prelude to what was to come in that final.
Yeah, I suppose so in some ways, but then once you're playing in the final, you forget about the semis and the other games you've played. But going back to the Tony O'Shea one, that's probably the most weirdest game I've ever played. You don't beat Tony O'Shea 9 straight legs, which I did. And that is the most bizarre thing out of the whole thing. To play Tony O'Shea, beat him 3-0, and I beat him in 9 straight legs. I mean, Tony just had no luck. And I'm stood there behind him thinking, hey, he'll kick in there. Oh, well, maybe not, maybe next throw. So I throw me that. I was stood back behind him and thinking, he will kick in a minute, won't he? I'm 2 sets up and I'm thinking, he'll start now. And it just didn't happen. If he got to a double, he couldn't find it, couldn't hit it. It was the most weirdest thing I've ever seen. Never, ever seen Tony have that sort of bad luck ever again with just that one time. And it's the weirdest thing. I suppose, in many ways, that in itself gives you the confidence then for your next, couple of rounds. And that takes you well into feeling good in a semi-final, which turned out to be a great one, as you say, with Mervyn.
Yeah, and coming into the final against Phill Nixon, he was a qualifier, and before the tournament, 150-1, I believe, to win the title. But obviously, you had that experience of playing at Lakeside for all the years before then, getting to a final a couple of years earlier. Did it feel any different going into that final compared to the previous one, or were you feeling a little bit more relaxed going into it?
I certainly felt more relaxed. That's for sure. It was playing Phill was a player that I knew. He was brand new to a lot of the viewing public. People had never seen Phill Nixon or even heard of him. But I'd known Phill for about 20 years. Played him so many times on different ranked events, and certainly he was a regular attender in the pentathlon. I'd known Phill for a long, long time. So it was nice to play against a guy you knew, and you knew his game. So I think that stood me in good stead in the first 6 sets. But after the half time, Phill started playing proper darts, which was quite scary.
Yeah, and I remember watching it. I think it was the final with Phil and Raymond a week before. Those 2 games that really myself got me into the darts, and 6-0 up, as you say, going into the break. What were you feeling going into the break? Were you feeling, right, let's just clear off one of these more sets and we've got the job done?
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know at the end of the day, but maybe in the back of your mind, you just come off the gas a little bit. But Phill definitely started playing the darts that I knew Phill could throw, and it was a pleasure to see. And it's people say it's one of the greatest games of all time on the Lakeside stage. I can't disagree with it because it was such an enjoyable match to play in. But that last set, I did get it right. 3-0. And 54 out, single 14, double top. Thank you very much. I'm world champion. Yeah, it's only taken me 14 years. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You turned it on in that final set, the 13th set. But going into that final set, obviously he's won 6 sets in a row to make it 6-all. What were you feeling? Obviously, you're still staying on that stage to play the final set. How are you feeling then, seeing that lead evaporate and now it's level again, 6-all?
I just said to myself, just play like you did in the very first set. And you'll come good. And that was what was in my mind. Just play like you did in the very first set. And it come good. That was the thing. It come good. It was a bit scary at one point. But there we go.
Yeah, and I believe 12 darts to win the first leg in that final set. And as you mentioned there, the 54 out to win it in the third leg, a 3-0 set to take the title. Yeah. And we saw the emotion straight away to lift that title. But was there a little bit of relief in there as well, having had such a big lead that you hadn't blown it and given the title to Phill?
Well, you hope you don't, but you never know. You see, that's the thing. You're a master of your own destiny when you're up there, aren't you? No one can do it for you. You've got to throw the darts and do all the stuff yourself. So it can be a bit of a lonely place at times, but you have to put all the thinking out of your head and just play the darts. Yeah, the greatest dart players in the world are the ones that don't think. As soon as you start thinking while you're playing, then it all goes pear-shaped.
And after that world title, some more big titles coming your way. The World Masters, 3 titles in a row, 2008, 2009, 2010, becoming only the second player to win it 3 times in a row, following on from Bob Anderson, who we've also spoken to on this. What was that like, winning another big title, the World Masters, but winning it 3 times in a row?
Well, winning the first one was fantastic because it was a title I always wanted because I love the trophy. And then to defend it successfully was really, really good. I was very pleased with that. And, the hat-trick was just icing on the cake.
And so, well, before going on to complete the hat-trick, obviously the second world title comes your way, a 7-5 win against Dave Chisnall, 3 years after winning your first world title. What did it feel like to win that big one again, becoming a 2-time world champion?
Well, it was very, very good. I was very confident going into that. I mean, I know Dave at the time was throwing some great darts, but I felt quite confident because on the Sunday morning, people couldn't wait to tell me that Dave had been out on the lash the night before. I thought, it's handy. I hope he's not feeling too grand then. But whether there was how much truth there was in that, I really don't know. Maybe he was just sat around a table chatting, for longer than people would have expected. But, the time they were coming, he's been out on the lash all night. All happy days. But you take it as it comes when you're up on that stage. You either play well or you don't. And I'm pleased to say I played well.
Following year, you come back to Lakeside as the top seed and all these big titles. You're the 2-time champion, defending champion. You've only recently won a 3rd World Masters in a row and 7-5 win against Dean Winstanley to make it a hat-trick of world titles. One of the games I wanted to touch on, though, one of the most memorable games I can remember from Lakeside is the last 16. John Walton, a 4-3 win against him. One of the best games in my opinion. How does that game rank for you?
Well, it went okay, but I don't really remember much about it, to be honest. Whenever I've played John so many times, and they've always been fairly close games because John was always a great player. I mean, the year he won the Lakeside, I think it was still the Embassy then as well. He won everything that year. Absolutely everything. And he only had to turn up and he was, blimey, Walton's here, he's a winner then. I always had such close games with John, and fantastic game to play. I'm pleased that I come out on top. It's all right to say on that one.
That you go on to win your 3rd world titles. You've got the 3 world titles. You've got the 3 world masters titles. At that point, are you starting to think I've fulfilled what I wanted to achieve in the game?
Oh no, because I was hoping that I might be able to achieve a proper hat trick of Lakesides. And of course, I didn't quite get the 4th in a row on the World Masters, but there again, my thoughts then were, well, okay, so we start and do it again. Let's do it all again. And we did it before. Let's get another 3 World Pros and another 3 World Masters on the spin. So, but it hasn't been. There's some things in your life happened. 2012 wasn't a good year for me at all. So, it's since then, things have taken a different spin, really, to be perfectly honest. Health issues and so forth, But I've won a few odds and ends here and there, Dutch Open, I've managed to pick that up in 2015, and 16 as well. So, my darts life hasn't finished yet.
No, absolutely not. And I know you missed one of the World Championships more recently. You've had your health problems, but this year you were back on that big stage, not the Lakeside stage, but the Indigo at the O2. What was it like being back in a BDO World Championship, but in, I suppose, unfamiliar surroundings, not playing at the Lakeside?
Yeah, it was a bit of a sad day from my point of view, having done 25 consecutive Lakeside appearances, and then you miss 1 year and you do the punditry bit with the TV production company, and then the following year after that, then you're not at Lakeside anymore. You're somewhere else. It didn't have didn't give you the same feeling inside. I wasn't excited to go and play there. It was just really just job of work, turn up, throw the darts, and that's it. What will be, will be. It just wasn't to be. That was all. Lost out, but never mind,
We've seen really, as well as the success that you've had in the BDO, winning the big titles, you're also one of the crowd favourites, especially at the Lakeside, but also want to touch on the Grand Slam when you eventually did go to play in the tournament at Wolverhampton. You were taken aback a little bit, I think, by the crowd reaction that you had there when you first went 2015.
Well, sort of taken aback, yeah, because all I was getting was a load of verbal and that on Twitter and saying, well, the crowd's going to be on your back and so forth. What I was getting, the crowd's absolutely loving it. It was brilliant. The crowd were fantastic. They had the same response again in, the following year. So I was very, very happy with it, and it was a pleasure to be there and a pleasure to play. The only thing was, the second year, I was partway through my treatment with a prostate cancer. So I'm up there and every so often I'm breaking out in hot flashes and hot sweats and all sorts. And it's not easy throwing it a double when all of a sudden the old temperature's rising in your body.
Well, yeah, I think I speak for all darts fans really when we say it was great to see you playing the Grand Slam and go up against the big boys in the PDC again, and great to see the crowd reaction. But what was it that made you change your mind? Because obviously you'd been invited a few years before. What made you change your mind to go and give it a go?
Well, I had the invitation. I'll be totally honest, as I always am with this particular subject, is I phoned the BDO and asked them, do you want me to play in it? And their response was, yes, please. I said, OK, I will play in it. If they'd said, no, we don't, then I wouldn't have played. The BDO said, yes, we want you to play in it. So I said, yes, I will. That was it. And that is the truth.
And how did you find it then? Obviously, that first year you topped the group, winning 3 out of 3. You just lost out in a decider in the last 16. As I mentioned before, that the crowd reaction was great for you. But how did you find it playing in a PDC event again?
I found it OK, yeah. I mean, the one thing you can never criticise the PDC about is the quality of how they run their tournaments. They're run very, very well and very professionally. We see different organisations, running events around the world, and they're not all as good as one another. From a professional player's point of view, the PDC run it well, very, very well indeed. And I hasten to say, as do the NDB, the Dutch Open is run very, very well indeed. So, I mean, when you get that sort of professionalism running events, it's got to go well. No doubt about it.
Now we're finishing up all our interviews that we do with the darts legends just with a couple of final questions. The first one really on the future of darts. You've been around for a little while. You've played BDO for pretty much all your career, but where do you see the future of darts going forward?
I think it will continue progressing. Certainly, with recent, things that are going on now, with this bloody virus and pandemic, darts has shown that it can continue, even if it's, across the internet airways or cableways, whichever way you look at it. People are still playing darts online, and people are enjoying watching it being played online, so that's a good thing. Once we get over this, yeah, there'll be a few things to sort out. So, like the county system that got stopped, before the end of the season. So, how are we going to approach the next season? And I'm sure there'll be issues within the PDC with some of their tour events that haven't happened. Where do we create our start point, or do we continue minus some? There's lots of decisions that organisers have got to make. Once they've made those decisions, I think darts will just carry on and go from keep growing. To be perfectly honest, keep growing and becoming better and better and more professional.
What about in terms of the BDO? I know it was difficult times for them recently with the World Championship and cutting the prize fund. Where do you see the future for the BDO? I know there's a lot that they need to sort out their end, isn't there?
Well, if 23 grand winner is the best they can do, they might as well not bother, to be perfectly honest. I just hope that they manage to sort themselves out and put on some, if they're going to do a World Professional, then put it on properly with proper prize money. You got us all signed up with our contracts on the pretext that we were going to get a winner's purse of 100 grand, and that turned out to be 23. That's no way to treat players, and I'm pretty sure if that situation happened again, a lot of the players would turn around and go, well, no, it's no point, not worth it.
Fingers crossed they can get things sorted out their end. And lastly, in terms of your career, we've spoken about a lot of great moments that you've had in the game, but for you, when you get asked what's your favourite moment playing, what would you say it is?
Favourite moment? I've actually got two favourite moments because they're quite, I like them both. One of them obviously is the winning the World Championship, first World Championship 2007, and the other one was my first World Cup singles title in 1995 in Switzerland, Basel, Switzerland. So, yeah, those are my two favourite moments, those two wins there, without a doubt. There is another small favourite moment, but I won't mention Mike Fitzmaurice's chair collapsing at Denmark Airport.
No worries at all. We'll save that for another time. Martin, it's an absolute pleasure to chat to you. We really appreciate your time. Thanks very much, and great to see you still playing the game and loving the game as well. So thank you very much for your time, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much indeed. All the very best. Cheers, pal. Thank you.
Thanks again to Martin for joining us, and we've got a few more of our Darts Legend series lined up over the next few weeks, so keep an eye out. We're going to be back on Thursday with a more regular episode of the podcast, myself and Burton DeWitt. I'm recording this on a Sunday. We're going to be chatting a little bit later on, so that will be coming out on Thursday this week. Hopefully we'll have a few guests for you as well for the show, so look forward to that on Thursday. But until then, hang tight.